Hi, and welcome to Sclero What? Today we're going to be talking to Bailey Schwartz. She's 23 years old. She got diagnosed with scleroderma at the age of 6, currently pursuing a career in graphic design, and she's joining us here right now on set. Bailey, how's it going?
Oh, just peachy.
It's just peachy, is it? So listen, you got diagnosed with scleroderma at a fairly young age.
Mm-hmm.
Well, tell me what that was like. You know, how old were you, and what was your first reaction when you first heard that you got diagnosed with scleroderma?
Well, I was 6 years old when I was diagnosed. At the time, I didn't have really much of a reaction. It was just something that just happened so quickly. So I didn't really understand what was going on. I just knew everything was about to change. The people who had the most reactions were obviously my parents, and they were very surprised and shocked and upset.
And then, I mean, you know, I guess, you know, the first thing that comes to mind is you have got this doctor coming out and going, your daughter has scleroderma. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure your first reaction would have been, sclero what?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what actually my mom said too. She was like, what is that? What does that mean? And, you know, my dad was just very quiet. He didn't say much of anything.
So I guess, you know, when they're telling you scleroderma, and, you know, at that time, you know, when I got diagnosed, there was no internet. There was few libraries. It was a Stone Age, mm-hmm. You know. But at that time, you know, what kind of resources did you have available to you to find out exactly what was going on?
At the time, it was just mainly my rheumatologist. She had strict rules for my parents as to not go online and Google.
Oh, really?
Because she felt that, she told my mom that they actually make things a lot worse than what it is. So she told my mom actually not to go online and to research it. But if she had any questions or anything like that, just to call her and ask her, because she'll be able to accurately answer it better. So
do you think that her downplaying a little bit softened the blow?
I think so. I mean, none of us really knew what we were in for. You know, it was going to be like a guessing game. So having a good, solid doctor who was able to help you the entire time, it definitely helped a lot.
All right, so you graduated high school.
Mm-hmm.
Life is going swimmingly. What was the next step? You know, I mean, were you seeking a specific career path? What was the next step that you were looking at accomplishing?
I took a year off after high school because I didn't know what I wanted to do with myself. And I spent that year working and managing to figure out what I didn't want for myself. But somewhere along the way, I just had to kind of be a little bit more realistic with myself. So I decided, you know, growing up, I loved art a lot, and I loved, you know, drawing and painting and stuff like that. And then as I gotten older, I became more interested in like packaging design and logos and stationery and stuff like that. And so that led me pretty quickly to the graphic design, and I was like, you know, I'm pretty creative, I'm pretty smart at it, and I was like, and I know what I like, so I'm just gonna go for it and just do it.
Cool. So how do you find that working in graphic design? I mean, you know, you've obviously got an incredible creative side. You know, you've got the personality, obviously, you know, it shines through. Do you find just, and I gotta ask this, you know, from a physical standpoint, you know, when it comes to scleroderma patients, we're not exactly marathon runners. You know, none of us are professional wrestlers. But when it comes to graphic design, do you find that, you know, getting into an industry like that makes it a lot easier, or helps, you know, facilitate dealing with the condition a little bit easier? Oh, absolutely.
It didn't really play a big part in my mind until like later on. But I was like, you know, I could actually do this from home. It's like not me exerting myself.
Set your own hours.
Yeah, absolutely. So it makes it a lot more easier to be able to keep up with doctors and life things with scleroderma.
Awesome. So Bailey, what keeps you motivated? What keeps you driven to keep pursuing, you know, A, career path, B, you know, fighting up the fight? You know, what do you find that's the one thing that you can draw on to just, you know, get you fired up to keep pushing you forward?
One is just setting an example for all the other scleroderma patients. You know, it's like letting them know that there is a life outside of scleroderma, and you don't exactly have to dwell on it, that there are options for you, and that you are able to be pushed further than just what everybody thinks, you know? So it's kind of like setting an example, but like being like, hey, like, look at me, like, you could do this too. That kind of thing. But also, like, another one is my nieces and my nephews, being a good role model and showing them that you know, I may have faced a lot of challenges growing up, but I fought my way through it. So I want to be able to set an example for them as well and show them that, you know, whatever challenges they may get thrown, they could also overcome them as well.
That's awesome. Now, look, I you know, once again, I know what you're going through. You know, I've been dealing with this for over 30 years myself. Emotionally, you go through roller coasters. You know, depression's another thing that is a huge factor with people dealing with scleroderma. You either have really, really highs, you have really, really lows. You know, do you have the one thing that you can fall back on to kind of help you push through that as well too? Like for me, music is my little getaway. You know, just put my headphones on, crank it up, I'm in my own zone. But it's not easy to push through that wall a lot of times. So what do you do to handle like the emotional roller coaster that comes with this?
I honestly go to therapy.
Yeah.
Twice a week, you know, and a lot of people like taboo it as something that's kind of terrible or something bad. But for so many years, I didn't really think much of the emotional stress or like the emotional side of having scleroderma. For years, I was just always focused on the physical side of it and just trying to get better. So after like so many years, all of the emotional stress of it and all of the like emotional baggage that comes with it, it just all kind of hit me at once. So I found that going to therapy twice a week and having 45 minutes uninterrupted of just being able to like talk about everything, how I'm feeling and what's wrong and things like that, that is the best thing.
It's like your little island of zen.
Yes, absolutely.
So the scleroderma community is not huge, and there's not a huge network of people that can actually link together. So what are you doing, or what do you see that your involvement is to get the word out on scleroderma within the community?
When I was a teenager, I started doing a lot of my own research on people who have scleroderma because I had a lot of unanswered questions that I didn't exactly feel comfortable asking my parents or my doctors. And I honestly just wanted other people's, you know, experiences and what they thought and what they did and stuff like that. And I came up with nothing. The only thing I came up with was, you know, older women over the age of 40, you know, talking about how horrible something was and how they couldn't stand this and that. And I'm like, as a teenager,
it's kind of depressing.
That was the last thing I wanted to hear or read. So, you know, for a while I just kind of laid low. I didn't really do much. And then the idea came back up again when I was doing more research, and I'm like, there's nothing for the younger people. The ones who are teenagers and they're just finding out that they have scleroderma, or the really young adults who have no idea what they're going to do with their lives now or don't know how to just try to have the basics of a normal life. So that's kind of where it kind of clicked in my head. Like, I had nobody there. I had to experience it by myself firsthand. I could really just share with people, like, this is what happened to me, you know, kind of like give them ideas as to what to expect. And, you know, I never really knew what my place would be in like the scleroderma community. I always knew I wanted a big part of it. So I was just waiting for it to kind of just click with me, and then it ended up doing it. But
now you're here.
Now I'm here.
Now you're here. Now you're here.
I'm here.
In studio on Sclero What? If there's one thing that you could tell somebody who just got diagnosed with scleroderma, what would you tell them?
It's going to get worse before it gets better. But what you end up learning through the worst is you're going to come out your best self in the end. And then the better gets really, 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 really good. And then at the end you could be like, I did it, I made it. And that satisfaction is just amazing to have.
And you're still keeping on there, Bailey. Thanks for joining us here on Sclero What?
Thanks.
Bailey Schwartz, everybody.